Minnesota an awful lot the last few years, but is there anything that really stands out to you sort of about their defense and what they do schematically and all that?
Yeah, their defense is great. I mean, obviously, Coach Zimmer, he's a great coach. He knows what he's doing. He gets everybody in the right spots. I think Harrison Smith is one of the best players in football. Just how explosive of a player he is on the defensive side of the ball. He's extremely intelligent. Number 22 drives everything back there. I think that obviously Hunter is a premier pass rusher. Arguably one of the best in the game. Kendricks has been doing it for years. So they have a lot of guys. And then obviously the addition of Patrick Peterson, they brought some other great players back and this and that. So I think the biggest thing is their experienced defense. Their experienced defense that's been there for a while and knows what their intent is and how they're trying to play the game. And so we got to be on our A game. Got to bring our best game.
Why does your connection with Tyler Lockett appear to be so unique?
Tyler, he's just magical out there. To be honest with you, he understands the game. I think any great receiver, they see the game in the eyes of the quarterback, and I think that's really what he does extremely well. Obviously, he catches everything you throw him. That's a key component. He knows how to get open, but I think the intellectual part of the game, he's a quiet guy for the most part, at least. But when we're out there on the field, he's speaking my language, and I think that's what's the beautiful thing in that game.
At what point did you realize there was something special about him and the way you two work together?
Well, I think the first couple of weeks I noticed when he got here. I noticed his work ethic. Pre-practice on the side. How much attention to detail he brought to everything. That was really special. I think that he just has always worked on the little parts of his game. And so he just has an unbelievable ability to get in and out of routes. I think he's one of the best route runners in the game. The guy's been scoring touchdowns left and right. It's on tape, and you can't deny it. The guy's one of the best receivers in the game.
Does it surprise you at all that you have the chemistry that you have with him when as far as I know, you guys have never worked out together in the off season, right?
We've worked out before, but we don't work out all the time, together in the off season. But Tyler's a guy who's super intellectual, takes care of his mind and his body and all that and his spirit, and I think we share a lot of that, in so many different ways, in so many similar ways, I should say. So I think that just by the grace of God, he's got an amazing talent, and I think that the two together is always fun and always special. So, I think the Tyler Lockett, he's one of the best workers, though. He's a guy who gets here early, spends time on the film, understands it, stays late. We watch a bunch of stuff together, and we're super efficient with our time, whether if it's in practice or in meetings, and it's really special.
You told us yesterday that he has more freedom in his route running in this offense. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, he's always had freedom, but I think that he's mastered that, knowing how to get open in all circumstances, and I think that trust. Obviously, my trust with him is as strong as it gets, but I think the coach is seeing how talented he really is, and that's been really special to see.
During the Monday Night Football broadcast with Peyton and Eli for the Packers-Lions, Peyton was talking about how the Lions were playing Rodgers with the too high look, kind of forcing him to run them out of it and take the underneath stuff, and what kind of patience that forces the quarterback to have. How do you deal with that patience and stuff during the game when teams are playing you?
Well, I think Indianapolis played a lot of too high. Tennessee Titans played a lot of too high primarily throughout the game, and we did really well throwing the ball. We made a lot of plays. Fortunately, the game didn't end the way we wanted to, but I think the biggest thing is just continue to have route concepts that get guys open in those looks. I think that's key. Guys knowing how to feel the zone. Anytime you're playing a zone team, you got to have a feel for how to get open in those zones, just like basketball or anything else. Got to know how to get to the paint, essentially. And our receivers do a really good job with that. Our tight ends do too. And so we want to use that versatility and use that ability to get those guys open in all circumstances.
Is there a patience required, especially for someone like you who's so good at throwing it deep? Is there a patience required when teams are doing those too high looks against you?
Yeah, I think there's a patience. I think there's a patience in the sense, but you also have to have the mentality of knowing that there's opportunities to get down the field too as well. But I think that what's also great is we got great players. Obviously Chris Carson can run it. We also have the receivers that can get open underneath, and we've been doing a really good job of that so far. So it's been good. I think that we can keep going.
It's only been 2 games, so it's probably not much you're not making too big of a deal out of it. DK's yards per target, they're down on the deep ball, hasn't really been there for him yet. Is there anything that you attribute that to?
No, not really. I think they double covered him in the first game for the most part, first half, and then he made some plays in the second. Just and I think that's kind of how it's been. I think Tyler's been able to get deep, those few of those massive plays that he's had. But obviously, we're always looking for DK in so many circumstances. He's arguably one of the best receivers in football. So we got two of those guys, So that's a good thing to have.
Things up for other receivers because they are doubling him or because he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely opens up things for everybody else. And I think the good thing is we've always been able to diversify the football. And I think that's one of the things we do really well. And so anytime DK touches the football, though, it may go to the house. And that's a good thing for us. So we want to make sure he keeps touching the football.
Have you talked to him about keeping a neutral line during games and not get – it seems like the book is out on him by opponents to kind of bait him into a lot of extra stuff after plays. Have you talked to him about that?
Yeah, DK and I've talked. I mean, obviously he's a ultimate competitor. He wants to battle. He's got a fierceness to him. You don't want to take that away from him. I think the biggest thing is keep bringing his A game, keep making the plays. His play will always do the talking, but also too, and playing with an edge too is what people fear, of him. So I think that there's a perfect balance of that. I think obviously, playing to an edge, but not going off the edge, is always key for any player, and I think that's one of the things that I know that he knows he'll do, and he's already focused on it, and it's kind of one of those things that he's ready to keep making plays.
Pete mentioned on his radio show Monday the possession in overtime, maybe first down, trying to check down there instead of throwing the pass to Lockett. I guess when you look back on the series, do you agree with that? Would that have been a better way to go? Or?
I think that what I agree with is finding a way to win the game, whatever that is. So I think that ultimately the game happens so fast. You try to get the ball to Tyler. Obviously, he's had 180 some yards. He's a pretty good player. But at the same time, it's the game happens fast. You make a decision. It was backed up. Didn't want to get hit in the first play, get sacked on it. So, it's one of those things that we were probably 3-4 inches off from completing it. On one of those beautiful toe taps. So it's, I'm not going to change my mindset. I know how to win a lot of those games. And we've done it before. And you're not going to win every single one of them. But, you believe you can. I think that's the key with our football team is always believing that we can.
Have you learned anything about Shane this week going through the process, coming off a tough game Sunday, just breaking down the film and your discussions with him, kind of going through this for the first time with him?
Yeah, I think obviously Shane is super consistent every day. He's even keel. He's focused on what we need to do. Me and him, marry those thoughts up together in such a great way. So we're on to the next one. Obviously we have a great football team we got to go play against this week in the Vikings. That's our focus, and I think that's the good part about it is of sports just in general. You get to play. No matter how good the game was before, how tough the game was, before you strap up your cleats and go play. And so I think that mentality, that maturity of our football team has always been there, and that's what we'll do.
The tight ends weren't as involved statistically on Sunday as well. Did they do anything to take that out, or what? I guess
I think Tyler did everything. I just think Tyler just made some unbelievable plays. We were looking for the tight ends, Tyler just kept getting open. So I think that's going to happen sometimes. But obviously Gerald Everett is one of the best pure hands receivers, tight ends, blockers. Everything he does is great. I think obviously Disley, he's been so successful over the years. So we want to get those guys super involved and let them make plays as much as we can. So. Yeah, I'm always looking for those guys, so those guys are great players.
Anything else, guys? Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, guys. Go off.
Thank you.